Look, it just doesn't take any kind of genius to figure out that I'm in no way what one would consider a shoo-in for the National Basketball Association. I'm short. I'm old. I'm not as athletic as I would have to be in order to do what the people in the NBA do. There are parts of this that I could you could argue that I could do things to make it so that I was more suitable for that league. Now, you may be wondering what this has to do with stopping the spread. And I'm going to get into that on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Sunday, the 21st of November of 2021. It is not Saturday, as my notes say. It is Sunday. It is that beginning of the Christian week. That means tomorrow will be the beginning of the work week, as I've said many times, for most people. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform, and today we're going to talk on the subject of stop the spread. And I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes, but we're going to start by just sort of talking about this whole thing about my being in the NBA. If I wanted to be in the NBA, I would have had to have worked like a dog in order to get myself there. Look, the guys who are actually taller and younger would have to do that. I would really have to work to make that happen. And in fact, by this point, it's not really highly likely that I would do that. Now let's get on to the notes, and you'll see why that factors in, why that figures in what I'm saying here. Imagine you went to the store to buy a loaf of bread. Now picture yourself walking out of that market without bread. Did you succeed in getting that for which you went into the building? If not, shouldn't you admit your failure? Here we are at the NBA, right? Did I prepare? No. Should I admit that I didn't succeed in getting into the NBA? I think probably I should. 2 years into a supposed pandemic, we have people still trying to sell social distancing, mask wear, apparently inefficacious vaccines, and maybe the worst of the lot, lockdowns. With all of this, we're still dealing with the virus, and frankly, our numbers look no better. They may well be worse. Are we really working to stop the spread at this point? Are we really working to stop the spread? Is that really an argument a sensible person would be willing to make? Like the person making his or her way to the grocery store, or that person trying to get into the NBA, but making his or her way into the grocery store to try to get bread, we set out with an obvious purpose. Yet, what we've done to this point seems not to have accomplished it. In fact, I can easily, and I believe more importantly, fairly argue that all we've managed to do is prolong the agony. I get wanting to protect folks likely to have more severe outcomes from COVID-19, including obviously death, or any other condition or disease. I get that. That considered, are we really doing, excuse me, my notes are kind of weird here. What are we really accomplishing through our current measures? What are we accomplishing? What are we managing? I can't see a way to make it that our current way of doing business is a good argument towards saying we are. I just can't. People are still getting the virus. It appears vaccinated people are getting it. And by the way, if I understand vaccines, that's not really a surprising thing. It certainly must be true that folks practicing social distancing, masking, and even lockdowns are as well. Assuming my assertions are correct, and I've yet to see indicators I'm mistaken, what are we accomplishing by our actions? Does it really make sense to double down? Based on what I see, what we've done hasn't made much of a difference, except maybe to prolong things. Will making and enforcing draconian pronouncements based on what appears to have already failed really help to stop the spread. Click. Now, again, this is where I could just click and be done, but I want to really talk about this and really sort of explore it and come to understand what's going on. Again, vaccination. Maybe there are instances where vaccination is actually supposed to stop you from getting a given illness. In most instances I'm aware of, vaccination is not for that purpose. It is to reduce the severity, and from what I'm seeing, that's not happening. And not only are we having breakthrough cases, but we're having people transmit, and further, the cases are not necessarily any worse or better than they would have been normally. Look, let's remember, if you look at the severe outcomes, the number of people for whom the severe outcomes have happened seem high, but when you compare them to the populace of the United States, for example, at large, you see that they're really not, right? If you talk about 1 million people, you're talking about in a country of 330 million people. It would have to be 3.3 million people to get to 1% of the population having died. 3.3 million, 1%, 1 in 100. We're nowhere near that number to this point. We're not even up to the million as far as I know at this point. So the point I'm making here is not super complicated. All of the various things that we've done don't seem to have affected things substantially. You could argue that you've got as much of a chance of people already having immunity, or people already having gotten the virus who weren't reported, or any number of things, right? You could make any number of arguments as to why the numbers have dropped off in the course of time. Look, if you look at the Spanish influenza, and I've made this comparison a number of times. If you look at Spanish influenza, what happened over the course of time is it just stopped being less of a thing. They didn't have a vaccine for it. Their face covering thing didn't seem to help at all. Hiding away in their homes didn't seem to help. None of that seemed to help. Granted, people were less willing to do that then than now, which ought to tell you something, by the way, about what we're saying about people, taking other people's, liberty, right? But all of this having been said, what's important to realize is this. None of those things seem to have made any difference at all. And if they have, the difference has been so mild that it really doesn't matter. And again, also it's hard to say, is it the things that we've done or just how things have worked out that have made the difference? How do you know? How do you know? People are still getting the ailment even though they've been vaccinated. People are still getting the ailment even though they mask. People are still getting it. And again, what's the percentage of the population that's gotten it? I think the number is somewhere in the 10% region. And you have to ask yourself 2 years in why it's only 10% regardless of masking or anything else. You have to ask yourself that. And you have to ask yourself, first of all, is it really 10% or is that just what's being reported? And I'm not saying people are out to deceive you. I'm looking at this from the perspective of the idea that there may be many people out there who got COVID, didn't even really notice that they got it and just moved on. Oh, it was a cold. Oh, maybe they didn't notice at all. Maybe among children the spread is a lot worse than we think it is, but guess what? It doesn't really matter because they don't appear to have been affected in any serious way. So this is what I'm trying to get at today. I have questions about how data has been managed with regard to this virus. I'm not even talking about that right now. I'm talking just about whether or not we really have accurate numbers, considering that there are things that we can count as not being possible to know, like how many people actually have had COVID, right? We can't know that. We can't know that because people could have had COVID and had basically no symptoms as far as I can tell. I believe that that's true. So I don't think that it makes sense to say that we have those numbers. And again, is it people trying to deceive me? Regardless whether or not there are people trying to deceive others, I'm not even talking about that. That's not even what we're discussing here. No, what we're discussing is two things. One, whether or not we've managed to prolong the agony in the course of what we've done. And the second thing is whether or not we really know what the numbers look like and so forth. But the third is exactly how many people have been severely affected by what's happened and whether or not our mitigations have made any sense in what we're doing. And I'm just here to tell you, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they have. Okay, I'm a little over my time again. I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 21st of November of I did it again. Sunday, my notes say the wrong thing. That's my fault. Sunday, the 21st of November of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Monday, the 22nd, in the beginning of the work week of November of 2021. Monday, the 22nd of November. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble on the podcast on YouTube. Welcome as well, but thank you. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. You can give me a boxing glove or a plus on Rumble, and that will be something positive to let me know that I'm doing well. You can give me a minus on Rumble if you're not so happy with what you see me to have been saying to this point. You can give me a thumbs up on YouTube if you want to do that to show me that I'm doing acceptably. You can give me a thumbs down as well if you choose to indicate that that's not the case, that I'm not doing well. Remember that you can comment on any platform that I put my stuff on, and I'll do my best to look at what you've said and respond if I think it's appropriate for me to do so. I'll certainly try and internalize what it is that you've said. Today's subject has been Stop the Spread, and tomorrow we're going to discuss the idea of vigilantism, and I'm going to say some things that I don't think people are considering well, and that I really think they need to be, really need to understand that they're not at this point, and I'm not really quite clear why. Even a lot of the talking heads don't seem to have this thing right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, but we'll talk about that again tomorrow, and hope you're doing well today and everything is going well for you as usual, and hopefully we'll see you again on Monday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Sunday, the 21st of November of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.